And that is why the 300 Blackout is quickly replacing the MP5SC. Today we're going to be talking about the lethality of 300 Blackout. And at this point, it's been widely adopted by multiple militaries and police agencies to replace the MP5SC. Previously, we did a video on the lethality of 300 Blackout, but I wasn't very happy with the comparisons that we made, and indeed, a lot of good points were made from my viewers. So we wanted to come back and look at the 300 Blackout, not just from a subsonic perspective, but also from a supersonic perspective, and better explore some of the newer projectiles that have been proven to work very well against human beings. So today on Grand Thumb, we'll be delving into heavily how lethal is 300 Blackout. Don't forget, we're actually going to be also using the Paul Harrell meat targets as well. We specifically talked to both Paul and Roy about this, and they were okay. If you're not familiar with Paul Harrell, great guy, pioneer in gun tube in every single way. And obviously he passed away, but we still love to keep his name going because he was a great man. Guys, stay tuned as we get into some fun stuff today. Now, of course, guys, I broke my neck in the military. There's still a lot of vocal involvement there, so the voice is still a little bit messed up. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and press on because we might just have permanent RFK voice. That's life. Here's the thing, though, guys. If you didn't know it, you pay for internet, but you actually don't pay for this content. This content is free, and it's kept free by our wonderful sponsors, specifically Primary Arms. We love them. They have sponsored this channel for a long time, so you should definitely send them an email and say, you know what? Thank you for making content free. We love you. What should I buy? You never know what they're gonna say. Maybe candy, or maybe the awesome HTX1. Go check them out, guys. If you're looking to have something pretty cool in your life, we of course can't recommend enough Henry repeating arms. Here's the thing, shot a lot in my life, but the more I shoot, the more I love a good old American lever action, and Henry are made in America or not made at all. They gotta have something for everybody. Go check them out, and of course, more importantly, go check out henrythumb.com. We can't say anything more about it. And guys, Mantis will turn your weapon to a dry fire machine. All my Mantis products have been stolen, but we do have Connor right here shooting it, looking a little retarded, but you know, we love them. And of course, we do have a brand new sponsor. If you're looking to get a gaming computer, Zydax, they're actually pretty cool. The owner loves machine guns, and that's good enough for me. Here's the thing. We like gaming, don't we, Sawyer?
Dude, it's fun.
Actually, if you join the Patreon, we have gaming nights, and they're super fun. So if you game with the Zydax, then that's even better, guys. And more importantly, he gave us a bunch of, 5090 graphics cards to shoot in a slow-mo. Why? I don't know. Some people just want to watch the world burn. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get into the content. So previously, when we did, by the way, say hi, Preston.
What's up?
So previously, when we did 300 Blackout, we didn't show supersonic projectiles. Now, if you're not familiar with 300 Black, a lot of the great things about 300 Black is its ability to cycle both subsonic and supersonic rounds out of the same rifle with very little changes to the gas system. Indeed, for the most part, you can keep it on one setting. If it cycles subs, it's 100% going to cycle supers. Then this makes it really great for different types of clandestine missions where you can keep the gun super silent with those subsonics, and then if stuff were to go wrong or you needed more firepower, you can easily switch over to the supersonics. Obviously, on most of your 300 Black guns, you do have a provision to go from subsonic to supersonic on the gas system, but it does work regardless. So today, when we're doing our test, we're going to be testing both supersonics and subsonics. This is one of the great complaints against us when we did our first 300 Blackout video, in addition to the projectiles that we used. So let's talk about the different projectiles that we're going to be using today, and then we'll go ahead and actually get into the stuff that costs us a lot of money, which is a phantom camera and gel blocks. Okay, so starting off with our supersonics, right here we have the 6-hour, 120 grain 300 Black that was specifically formulated for a short barrel. Now, as far as what barrel we're going to be using, I know there's some consternation about it. However, we're still going to be sticking with the 6.75-inch barrel. The reason for this is the generally accepted barrel length for most militaries that are using them. Obviously, you can get more velocity, you can get more performance out of a longer barrel, but generally we see shorter barrels in usage with 300 Black, which is why SIG has specifically made shorter projectiles. Like them or hate them, guys, the fact of the matter stands that when it comes to 300 Black rifles, for the most part, you only see SIG MCX type rifles used, such as the Elva or many others, Rattler, etc. So don't yell at me. What is it? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Is that how you say it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that was. we'll go with that. Right here we have the 125 grain OTM and 300 Blackout, also 6 hour. Finally, we have your kind of more run-of-the-mill, which is an FMJ, which is a simple 125 grain projectile. We wanted to show basic performance of FMJs. I know you guys are interested because not all of you are going to have the money to stockpile the nicer ammunition. From there, we'll be moving into our subsonics. Now, when it comes to a 300 Blackout, both me and John typically run exclusively subs with some supersonics on our kit. We'll be talking about kit presentation, how to set up your kit for 300 Blackout at the end of the video. But the performance of 300 Blackout with subsonics is very important in my mind. So one of the first things that we wanted to take a look at was at the 300 Black 194 grain ME, which stands for massive expansion. Now, the 194 grain projectile is actually made by Lehigh Armory, and it is loaded by 6 Hour into this extremely deadly, extremely violent round, or so we've heard. Now, the thing about the 194 grain is it has excellent performance. Now, even with 220 grain, we actually had a great story recently from one of our good buddies, where when he was shooting somebody with 220 grain, he stated that it sounded like throwing a pool ball at somebody's chest. Yes, you can get better projectiles, but no matter what, 300 Black is still a very violent and a very effective round. From there, we'll be using the Hornady projectile, which is of course 190 grains with the Sub X. And then finally, we might do a little bit of performance of the AMAX. We previously had very bad performance, and then of course, the 220 grain OTMs that we have from AAC. So all those are going to combine to make for a good picture of the type of lethality we're going to be seeing from 300 Blackout. We'll be utilizing our Phantom camera right here, which can do it over 1 million frames a second, but for today we're going to be filming at about, what, 110,000?
Yeah, that's correct, 110.
That's very, very slow. Over here, we have our gel blocks, and we'll be using these because they're not exactly a good substitute for flesh, but they do give us a medium to measure the performance of the different projectiles against each other, which is why we use gel. After we found our top performing rounds, we will be firing into the meat target. Harrow Brothers, approved and all that, but let's start with gel. That's enough talk. Let's go ahead and get shooting. All right, first up, we have a 120 grain, 6 Hour short barrel. It is a monolithic copper round. Let's go ahead and let's chrono it first and see if it meets what it says it is. Okay, we have 1911. Ooh, how nice. And it puts it at 1,897, so slightly above what it says. That's neat. Next up, let's go ahead, let's shoot the gel. Cool. And I do want to point out how violent that round looks. Like, it looks like just a violent round. I bet this whole block is just going to get blown smooth off. Is that what the kids say?
That is, in fact, what the kids say.
Ready when you are, Mike.
All right, buddy. Oh! Did you see that? Whew! That was wild.
I saw an explosion in there.
Yeah, I saw it. You can see. Come over here, guys. When I fired into it, there was I saw an explosive compression immediately. You can see all that black right there. That's where that oxygen ignited. Very cool. Incredible penetration as well, straight through. Exactly what you want to see from an offensive round. Let's see what that looked like on high speed. From the gel block, it was incredibly violent, phenomenal performance out of the round. Copper rounds, just crazy. Loved what we see. Let's move on. Next up, we have SIG Marksman. This is a 125 grain open tip match round. So let's go ahead and let's see what velocity we're getting compared to the short barrel specific ammunition, and then we'll go ahead and shoot the gel block. Well, apparently the blast was a lot, so we got 1,854. Good. So a little bit slower than what we saw with the short barrel, but excellent performance overall. We have 125 grain Marksman OTM rounds. Let's go ahead and let's see how they are doing. Ooh. Oh, look at that. Come here. You can actually see the round like spiraling through, and it looks like it exited right out the side there, but that is the coolest looking thing ever. We didn't get that same kind of explosive energy. The other one's reversed, by the way, that we had from the short barrel round, but still excellent performance. You can see that tumbling at about, looks like we have about 8 inches in there. Perfect. Exactly what you want to see in terms of ballistic energy. I love this. Next up, we have the Frontier Armory. This is your basic FMJ round. Let's go ahead and see how it's performing. We have 125 grains, and let's see what velocity we get here. All right, 1,877, very, very similar to the 6-hour marksman with our 125 grain OTM. The difference being we have FMJ. With all that being said, let's check the gel.
Yep.
I love the little Hornady Frontier ammunition actually had an insane yaw compared to the SIG Marksman OTM. I did not expect that from an FMJ to see that type of performance. But you can see right here, at about 7 inches of gel, we had that huge yawing effect. We also have that explosive compression. Now, if we compare that with the SIG OTM, you can see it far less compared to what we got from the Hornady Frontier. Apparently their projectile, the way they made that projectile just really does well. Very impressive from Hornady Frontier. So we've done our supersonic rounds at this point, and they had very good performance. Now we're going to be going down to subsonic. So there's a couple things to talk about. With supersonics, you have more than enough velocity for the round to begin to fragment, yaw, and destabilize as it enters tissue or gel. However, with a sub, you don't have that speed to be able to make this open up or tumble or yaw nearly as well. So you're primarily depending upon the way that the projectile was made. So some projectiles do perform very good, but when you compare that to something like a 9mm or 40 or 45, the reason sometimes you don't see nearly as much expansion is the fact that, well, those rounds have more surface area compared to these little 30 cal rounds. You know, a 9mm is a .38, versus a .40 versus a .45. So you are asking a lot from these rounds. They can perform well so long as you have a good manufacturer. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's see how they work in gel. Up first, we have the SIG ME, which is 194 grain. That's the massive expansion. That's the Lehigh projectile. It's a solid copper projectile. Let's see how it performs. All evidence that we've seen so far shows that it does very, very well. First up, we're going to go ahead and chronograph it. Okay, 867 feet per second. Good. That's exactly what you'd expect out of a subsonic round. Oh, dang. Come look at this. Just imagine this guy being stuck in your body right there. Feels like it'd be a really bad day. You see the amount that those petals peeled outwards? That's going to be its ability to strike critical components of your body, whether it be part of the nervous system, major vessels, etc. This is wonderful performance out of a subsonic. And you can see why these are highly used within certain units. That's violent. So 194 grain ME, that's a huge vouch for this projectile. Incredible performance, 12 inches of penetration, exactly what you want according to FBI ballistic standards, and just very good from a subsonic. Let's see how the competition stacks up, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Mike, isn't that
Does it go off on its own? Next up, we have Hornady Subsonic. It is using a very interesting projectile. This is the Sub X. So if you take a look at it, very similar to the various offensive rounds that Hornady has produced. We have that plastic plug in there to ensure good feeding, as well as some penetration past clothing. Let's go ahead and see what the speed is. 919. All right. Hornady Sub X. See how that looked. So we didn't quite have the expansion that we saw from the ME, which is phenomenal performance. We saw a little bit more penetration, not as much expansion, but it definitely did fairly well. I can actually get this round out here. Come over here, get a little closer to it. You can see that it opened up. It didn't quite have the petals that we saw from the ME. You can see that the plastic projectile seemed to work very well. Good performance, definitely eclipsed by the ME, however. right, next up we have AAC. It is loaded with a AMAX round, 208 grains. Let's go ahead and let's see what our speed is right here. All right, 916. So let's go ahead and shoot it into gel. See how it does. They claim 1,000. That's probably on a much longer barrel, would be my guess. AMAX. So it looks like it curved out of the block right here. Looks like we got some pretty good yawing. Very similar in many ways to the earlier round that we had from the Sub X. However, it tumbled way later in its journey through the gel, about 8 inches in versus about 3 inches with the Sub X. And still definitely nowhere near the performance that we're seeing for the ME round. Let's see what it looks like at high speed. So right here we have the AMAX round that's been fired. As you can see, no change to the projectile, did not open. You might say to yourself, well, that's just one round. Here are another 2. They're all the same. We compare that to the ME round that we used earlier. And you can see when it comes to 300 black subs, it really does matter what type of projectile you're purchasing. Now for funsies, me and John carry a lot of 220 grain OTMs from AAC. So we want to check that performance right now. So we'll go ahead and do that before we get into meat target. Let's go ahead and check speed on this guy. 1,027. All right, so we have our speed. Let's go ahead and test it in ballistics gelatin. Okay, AAC 220 grain OTM. That went straight through. You know what? Not great performance overall. So we had it pencil straight through. We had it yaw at the very end. It did not really do too much. What a bummer. A lot of you wondering, what is it like working for Grand Thumb? What is it like?
It's pretty cool, except for the fucking meat target part.
You know what?
Kind of gross.
Paul Harrell did this without complaint.
I am not Paul Harrell. Otherwise, I would be way cooler.
The successful YouTuber.
Yes.
You know, he just released, they just released an unshown video from him just recently of him how to stop a car. Which is cool, because we want to do that at one point, so that's neat. We'll definitely do that at some point. But Paul, just ahead of his time in every way. Roy, also very cool. That's his brother. So right here, what we have is we have 2 pork loins to simulate our, you know, big old pecs. We got ribs, of course. We have oranges for lungs, just like old Paul Harrell would always talk about. Now behind that, we have some gel to catch the projectile at the end. I know, you know, Paul used the high performance fleece barrier, but I mean, we simply strive to do as best as we can. We shoot for the stars, and sometimes we don't hit them, but gosh darn it, we're trying.
Well, Preston, the internet never forgets, and it certainly won't forget that.
Now, we previously talked about being able to cycle both sub and supers. Now, when you cycle your supers, you typically want to be on a minus gas setting. Less gas because there's a lot more powder in the supersonic rounds. The one thing we also like about the 220 grain AEC loaded 300 black is the fact that because it's loaded a little bit hotter in the subsonic category, it can run on the minus setting no problem. So that if you're in a situation where you need to pump over to a supersonic mag, you don't have to bother with the gas adjustment, which is a big plus in our eyes. Now, it's kind of, you know, really kind of splitting hairs at this point, but in life or death, it definitely matters. And when we talk about anything that we do here in Grand Thumb, we're talking about concerned citizens being ready for whatever may come. So it does definitely matter. And that's from our personal experience. I'm sure that others may have some other anecdotes to put in there. So please feel free to add that below in the comments. All right, coming over to the meat target right here, if you want to take a closer look. Right here, we have our pork breast out front, very similar to human meat tissue. We have the ribs, obviously, for your rib cage. We have our oranges to simulate lung tissue or various organs. And then we have our gel right here to catch the round and make sure that we can see what it looks like. So somewhat of it's a pretty good approximation of, the very front of the chest cavity, and I'm excited to see what our very violent performers do. We're going to be using both 194 grain ME, and then of course the 120 grain short-barreled SIG variant for the supersonic round. Let's see how they look. 194 grain ME. Okay, so we have our initial impact right through here. And let's go and let's take a look at, we have a piece of delicious lung tissue right here. Looks like, oh, look at that, there's a projectile. So it looks like we got partial opening of the projectile in there. Extremely violent. Barely traveled into the gel. You can see some of the petals actually ended up breaking off into there. And let's see the performance. For the most part, it really didn't do as good as I thought it would do. It didn't really blow it open or anything. But nonetheless, we did have it primarily open up in the lung tissue, which makes sense given the amount of penetration that we saw in the gel test before it began to yaw. So great performance out of the 194 grain ME. We have 120 grain, 6 hour. It's a short barrel, supersonic. Ready?
Yep.
Pieces of meat hit me. Okay. We have entrance, exit, entrance, exit, and then, okay, it blew apart the oranges, but look at that. It took all that orange with it. That's insane. And it just exited straight out. It didn't care at all. You can see the orange colored wound track with pieces of orange / lung tissue. So imagine that's going through your body, just pulling all that pieces of muscle, bone, tissue through that wound channel. Just deadly, very violent round. The supersonic is a wonderful round. So excellent performance, just excellent. So we've gotten to the end here of our ballistic test with 300 Blackout. Obviously, I'd say the standout round was definitely the 194 grain ME for the Lehigh projectile, and of course the 120 grain short barrel round. Both are loaded by 6 hour. Not that that has to be that way, it's just the projectiles that they used were excellent. So overall, really excellent performance in the 300 Blackout. It really is, in many ways, what you call the ultimate submachine gun round. It's obviously not a submachine gun, but it is replacing that role for a lot of different militaries and police forces overall. We primarily run our 300 Blackouts subsonic. Because of that, when it comes to our kit, as far as our kit considerations, we do have a tendency to run primarily 194 grain. Me and John will both run a 220 grain magazine somewhere on our kit that's used for the longer range subsonic engagements, whether that be here as an emergency or further to the side to use in specialized scenarios. We also carry supersonic magazines on us, typically 2. I keep one on the right side of my kit right here, so I have to deliberately get to it, and I keep one at the back of my belt line that I have to get to as well. Those are good for cars, vehicles, when you really got to be able to do a little bit more damage. The point is, in our opinion, this is a primarily subsonic platform. However, it can definitely do supersonic well. Just understand that many other guns do supersonic much better. So it really depends on what you need. Out here in the mountains of Idaho, you're probably not going to carry a 300 Black. You're probably going to go to some other caliber. But for urban scenarios, close quarters, the 300 Black really is a very violent, very deadly, and very quiet gun to use. I hope you guys have enjoyed our little foray into 300 Blackout ballistics. Plenty more coming. Make sure you check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Final thing for you guys is going to be a little bit of data advice. A little bit of data advice for you guys today is going to be make sure you keep an eye on your credit score. Unfortunately, we are where we are when it comes to finances in this country, and you don't want to find yourself in a situation where your credit just screws you over. So keep an eye on it because you never know what's going on. I hate it. I know you guys probably hate it too. That's life.